My wife is usually incredibly ditzy. Always looks at me with those watery eyes. It really makes one's protective instinct peak. Thinking what would this girl do without me? Muddled through and got the marriage certificate with her. On the day of the move, I found a box from under her bed inside, neatly filled with the latest art of love war, open with a line marked in red. The final step, make him propose voluntarily. My hand holding the book shook a little. Hubby, you found my little box. She leaned against the doorway, tilted her head looking at me, smiling with a face full of mischief. At the convenience store entrance, a woman was blocking the way. She had her back to me, head down, holding her phone in her hand. Didn't move for a long time. I was in a hurry to buy cigarettes. Couldn't go around her. Tisk. She turned around, a face. Fair and clean. Eyes very. Looking a bit blank when staring at people. Her voice was very small. Like a mosquito. How do I use this? She turned the phone screen around. Facing me was the payment interface. I looked at her. She looked at me. The air was silent for 3 seconds. Scan that machine, I just. While pointing to the machine by the counter. She turned back and leaned over, moving the phone closer to the machine. Actions very slow. Very careful, no response. She moved a bit closer, almost sticking to it. Still no response. The cashier was a young girl. Holding back laughter, face turned red. I took a deep breath. Walked over, took the phone from her hand. Just felt the back of her hand was cold. Her fingers flinched a bit. I aimed at the machine, a beep. The sound of successful payment rang out. Done. I stuffed the phone back into her hand. She took the phone, looked at the screen, then looked at me again. Eyes blinked once. Thank you. You're welcome. I turned to enter the store. She spoke again. I stopped, turned back to look at her. She lifted the plastic bag in her hand. Inside were 2 cartons of milk. A piece of bread. This is for you. What for? Thank you for helping me. She handed it forward. Looking very persistent. I am called Bai Bing. No need in Taiwan. I didn't take the plastic bag. Her hand stopped in midair. A bit awkward. The tips of her ears slowly turned red. I reached out and took the plastic bag. Fine, thanks. After saying that, I walked into the store. Grabbed a pack of cigarettes. When I came out after paying, she was still standing at the entrance. The streetlight stretched her shadow very long. A small one. Why are you still here? I asked. She seemed startled. Shoulders shrugged. I forgot how to get back. I looked at her. She gave a neighborhood name. Not far from here. 2 blocks away. But many forks in the road. Turn left ahead through the traffic light. Go into the first alley on the right. Go to the end and turn right. I said. She listened carefully and nodded. Then looked up, looking at me with misty eyes. Left turn traffic light. Right alley count. I interrupted her. It'll take you there. Her eyes lit up. Then quickly suppressed it. Whispering, will it be too much trouble for you? Yes, I said, let's go. He followed behind me. Footsteps were very light. I walked fast. He also walked fast. He also slowed down, always keeping a distance of 2 steps. The night wind was a bit cool. Blowing over, he shrugged his neck. Cold? I didn't look back. Not cold, he said, his voice drifting a bit in the wind. I didn't speak again. Arrived at the community gate. I stopped. We're here. He looked inside the community, then looked. Thank you. Fang Yuan, I'm going up. He turned and walked inside. Walked a few steps, then turned back and waved at me. I also waved my hand. He smiled, then turned and ran into the building. I stood for a while, waiting until the lights in his house turned on. The phone vibrated. A friend request. Note, I am Bai Minging. I stared at that avatar. It was a cartoon rabbit. Sillily clicked accept. A message came from the other side immediately. Are you home? Not yet. Be careful on the road. I didn't reply, stuffed the phone back into my pocket. Walking towards home. That bag of milk and bread. Still heavy in my hand. The next day, Fang Yuan. My home network won't connect. He sent the voice message. Voice with the hoarseness of just waking up. And a bit panicked. I replied with a question mark with eyes closed. He sent a screenshot. The Wi-Fi list was completely blank. Then followed by another. It's gone. Is the router plugged in? I typed after a while. He replied, what is a router? I stared at those 5 words. Looked for 10 seconds. Sat up, scratched my hair. Made a phone call. Rang 3 or 4 times. Then he picked up. Hello. His voice was small and a bit silly, like he just ran over. Are you home? Now? Yes. Wait for me. I hung up the phone. Put on clothes and went out. Bought breakfast on the way, and brought one for him, too. When I knocked on the door, he was wearing fuzzy pajamas. Hair tied messily behind his head. Eyes were still a bit swollen. Why are you here? He was a bit surprised. Coming to help you check, I squeezed in. Glanced at his very small 1-bedroom apartment. Tidy enough. But things were placed messily. A few dolls were thrown on the sofa. Unfinished snacks were on the coffee table. The router was right next to the TV cabinet. The black indicator light wasn't on. I bent down, looked at the socket. The plug was loose, half hanging out. I pressed it in. The indicator light turned on. Blue light flashing. Done. He crouched beside me. Looking at the router, then at me, expression a bit blank. It's fixed just like that? You're so amazing. His eyes curved up. I didn't respond. Handed him the breakfast I was carrying. Brought this for you. He took it. Fingers touched my hand. Quickly pulled back. Thanks, you helped me again, it's fine. By the way, I'm leaving. He stood up. Are you going to eat together? No, okay. He lowered his head, looking at the bag in his hand. I walked to the door to change shoes. Fang Yuan, he called me. I turned back. He pursed his lips. His voice was thin. Next time if we don't meet again. Can I look for you? I looked at him. He looked up. His eyes were clean, with a bit of cautious expectation, like a small animal waiting to be picked up and taken home. Sure, call me if you need anything then. I opened the door and left. Downstairs I tapped on my phone. He sent a message. Breakfast was delicious, followed by a rabbit emoji. Bai Lingbing really is as cute as a rabbit. After that, Bai Lingbing would often look for me, for all sorts of strange reasons. Fang Yuan, my phone seems to be broken. It keeps popping up strange things. I went over and saw it was a push ad from some app. Told him to close it. Fang Yuan, my circuit breaker tripped. It's so dark at home. I'm scared. I went over and pushed the breaker back up. He sat on the sofa, hugging his knees. Eyes all red. Said it's like a haunted house, Fang Yuan. I bought a cabinet online. I can't understand the blueprints. The screws don't seem to match either. I spent 2 hours facing that anti-human design diagram to put the cabinet together. He handed me the wrong screwdriver several times beside me. Every time I said, I won't help you next time. Every time he said okay. The next time he would send a new request for help, attached with a pitiful emoji. I found I simply couldn't bear to refuse him. That kind of clumsiness of his didn't seem faked. Uncoordinated limbs. Slow to process things. Life common sense approximately equals 0. But he has a good attitude. He learns seriously every time, although he can't remember even after learning. And he's not annoying. He just stays quietly to the side. I work and he watches me if I frown. He would immediately hand over water, asking softly, is it very hard? As it happened more often, my home gradually filled with his things. A pair of pink slippers. He said it's convenient for when he comes, a rabbit mug. He said he's used to it, a few bags of snacks. He said he bought too many and couldn't finish them, so they were just left there. He called again at night. His voice had a hint of crying. Fang Yuan, my keys fell into the sewer. When I arrived, he was squatting at the building entrance, hugging his knees with his head buried. Hearing footsteps, he raised his head, his eyes, and nose. They fell in. He pointed at the gap in the drain cover downstairs. The gap was very narrow. The keys indeed could fall in. I squatted down and looked. It was pitch black underneath. There's standing water. Do you have a spare? I asked. He shook his head. Just this one. I stood up to go find a piece of wire. Bent it into a hook. Lying on the ground. Reached my hand into the gap to feel around. He was squatting beside me, holding the flashlight for me. The light was unsteady, swaying back and forth. Don't shake it. He immediately steadied his hand. I'm sorry. Something hit a hard object. I slowly pushed it to the edge of the crack. Prying it out, it was the keys covered in black mud. I stood up, rubbed the keys on the nearby grass, and handed them to him. He didn't take the keys. Looking at me, tears suddenly fell. He said just wiping them is fine. I frowned and asked in confusion. What are you crying for? He shook his head. Tears fell even harder. I'm so useless. Teacher, sorry to trouble you. He cried without making a sound. Just tears kept flowing. His shoulders were twitching. The streetlights were dim and yellow, shining on his face. Looking pitiful. Somewhere in my heart softened. Stop crying. I don't blame you. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I sighed. Grabbed his wrist. Stop rubbing. Your eyes will swell. He stopped, looked up at me, his eyelashes wet and stuck together. Fang Yuan, he whispered my name. Am I? Very annoying. I looked at his bright red eyes. The tip of his nose was also red. No, I replied, rubbing his head. He blinked. Another tear rolled down. I let go of his wrist. With the back of my hand, which was still somewhat clean, wiped away that tear on his face. Stop crying. Go home. He sniffed, sniffled, nodded, and asked. I went upstairs with him. Watched him open the door. His hand was shaking a bit. It took several tries to aim at the keyhole. The door opened. He stood at the doorway. Looked back at me. Do you want to come in for a bit? He asked. The light inside was warm and yellow. Shining out, I stood in the dim hallway. Although I really wanted to go in, I still said it's very late. Maybe next time, get some rest early. His eyes dimmed for a moment. Lowered his head. Oh no, good night. Good night, remember to lock the door. I turned and went downstairs. Reached the first floor and looked up at his window. The light was still on. I took out my phone and sent him a message. If you make an extra copy later, keep it with me. So next time it's lost again, it'll give this one to you. The light inside was warm and yellow. After a few seconds, he replied okay, and after a while, sent a photo. The cleaned key was hanging on a rabbit keychain. Hey Wen, it's washed clean. Little cat spinning. JPG weekend. He followed me to the hardware store. The old master was busy at the machine. He stood far away. Couldn't help but be curious. Peeking in, watch your eyes. I pushed his head back. He covered his forehead, muttering softly. I know. Key made. He held it in his hand, looking at it over and over, like had gotten some treasure. This one's for you. He handed the new key to me. I took the cold metal, still carrying the residual heat from the machine's grinding. If it's lost, don't cry again. His face turned red. I didn't cry. Stubbornly coming out of the hardware store. The weather was quite good. He pointed to the milk tea shop across the street. Let me treat you to milk tea. Thank you. No need. He was very persistent this time. Pulling my sleeve and walking to the other side. His hands are very small. Grabbing my cuff. With a gentle force. I didn't shake him off, crossing the road while waiting for the red light. He stood next to me, staring at the red light's countdown numbers across the street. Fang Yuan, he suddenly called me. Why are you so good to me? He didn't look at me, looking across the street, his voice half drowned by the traffic. Am I? You are, he counted on his fingers. Paying for me. Taking me home to fix the internet. Installing cabinets, fishing out keys. And now even helping me get keys made. He turned his head and looked at me. His eyes very bright. You're a good person. I've been given a good person card. You're overthinking it. I watched the light turn green and walked. He trotted to keep up. The milk tea shop was quite crowded. While queuing, he stood on tiptoe to look at the menu. Looking very serious. What should we get? He asked. Anything is fine. Then the signature milk tea, full sugar with pearls. After ordering, he turned back and smiled at me. It's sweet. Drinking it makes you feel good. While waiting for the milk tea, he was a bit bored. He took out his phone and swiped. Swiped a few times. And held it in front of me. Is this cat cute? He showed me a video. A fat cat playing with a ball of yarn. It's okay. I want to raise one in the future. But I'm afraid I won't do it well. I can't even take care of myself. I didn't say anything. The milk tea was ready. He took it and inserted the straw, handing it to me first. I took a sip. It was cloyingly sweet. He also took a sip himself, his eyes narrowing in satisfaction. It's good. We started walking back. He didn't really look where he was going, focusing entirely on drinking the milk tea, almost hitting a utility pole. I reached out and pulled him toward me. He bumped into my arms. A bit of milk tea sloshed out, spilling onto the back of his hand. He let out a low cry. I let him go, took a tissue from my pocket and handed it to him. He wiped his hand, whispering, sorry. He behaved himself, staying beside me, taking small sips of milk tea. Arriving at his apartment building, he stopped him going up. He turned back to say goodbye, casually handing me the half-drunk milk tea. You can have this. I can't drink anymore. I looked at him, his ears turned red again. If you don't mind. I took it. He smiled, waving, bye-bye, Fang Yuan. Then he ran into the building. I held that cup of milk tea. There was a faint lipstick mark on the straw. I stared at it for 2 seconds. Just then the phone vibrated. By me being sent a message. Is the milk tea good? I replied, too sweet. He sent a crying face emoji. Then sent another one. The next time, why less sweet? Before I could even have the half-sugar milk tea, something happened to Binding Being again. Sprained his foot. He was crying on the phone, saying he missed a step on the stairs and couldn't move. By the time I rushed there, he was sitting on the last step of the stairwell, clutching his right foot, his face scrunched up. Seeing me tearfully, Fang Yuan. I knelt down and glanced at his ankle. It's already swollen. A large area is red. Can you move it? He tried to move it a bit. Immediately gasped in pain. It hurts. I turned my back to him. Get on. He froze for a moment. Hurry up. He slowly leaned on my back. Arms around my neck very lightly. Not much weight. I held his legs. Stood up. There's a faint scent on him. Hair brushing against my neck is a bit itchy. Going to the hospital. HMM. He put his face. Buried in my shoulder. Voice sounded muffled. Took a taxi to the hospital. On the way, he didn't say a word. Unusually quiet. While waiting for the red light, the driver glanced at us from the rearview mirror. Said with a smile, girlfriend sprained her ankle. You seem quite worried, young man. I didn't say anything. Binding Being moved a bit. Whispered, not yet. The driver laughed. Didn't say anything more. Arrived at the hospital, registered, and got an x-ray. Luckily no bones were hurt. Just a ligament strain. The doctor prescribed some medicine. Told him to apply ice and walk less. I took the slip to get the medicine. When I came back, saw him sitting on a hallway bench. Head down, looking at his swollen ankle. Looking lonely. I walked over. Handed him the medicine. He took it and whispered, thanks, sorry for troubling you again. If you know it's a trouble, be more careful next time. He lowered his head even further. I knelt down and took out an ice pack. Wrapped it in a towel. Applied it to his ankle. He flinched slightly. Bear with it. He bit his lip and nodded. Iced for 20 minutes. I helped him walk. Out of the hospital it was already dark. The wind was stronger. It'll take you back. Took a taxi back to his apartment complex. I paid the fare. Got out, then turned my back to him. He hesitated for a moment. Climbed on again. This time, he held on tighter. Arms soft. Softly circling my neck. Breath puffing behind my ear. Fang Yuan, am I heavy? Not heavy. He paused for a moment. Pressed his face against my back. You smell quite nice. I didn't speak. Carried him upstairs. To his front door. I put him down and let him lean against the wall. Where's the key? He pulled the keys from his pocket. Handed them to me. I opened the door. Helped him inside. Turned on the light. Pointed to the sofa. Go sit there. He'll apply the medicine for you. He hopped over on one foot and sat down. I took out the medicine. Follow medical advice. Take what should be taken. Apply what should be applied. Went to the kitchen again and wrapped ice in a towel. Continued to apply ice for him. He sat on the sofa watching me busy myself. Suddenly spoke. Fan Yuan, you're so good to me. Is it? He paused. Voice trailing off. Do you like me? My movements paused for a moment, then continued changing the ice pack for him. Don't overthink it. He said, oh. Didn't speak, the room was very quiet. Only the ticking of the clock. Finished icing, I packed things up. These few days. Don't move around, take medicine on time. Call me if anything happens. He nodded. I walked to the door to change shoes. Fan Yuan, he called out to me again. I looked back, he was hugging his knees. Sitting on the sofa, eyes looking at me. Sparkling. Will you come again tomorrow? I looked at his swollen ankle. And those eyes full of expectation. Depends, he smiled. See you tomorrow then. I closed the door. Walked to the first floor. I took out my phone and sent him a message. What do you want to eat tomorrow? Almost immediately. He replied. Anything is fine. I put away my phone. Walked out of the hallway. The night breeze blew over. A bit chilly, I looked up at his window. The light was still on. I went there early the next morning. Brought porridge and some light side dishes. He came to open the door. Trying to stand. Against the doorframe. Saw me, eyes crinkling. You're here squeezed in with me. Put the food on the dining table to eat. He hopped over and sat down. Watching me set the table. I served a bowl of porridge. Pushed it in front of him. He picked up the spoon. Sipped it slowly. Took a few sips. Looked up at me. Have you eaten? I have. He continued to lower his head and eat porridge. Eating very slowly. I sat opposite watching him eat. Sunlight shone in through the window. Falling on his hair. A fuzzy halo of light. His hair is very soft. A bit messy. Scattered on his shoulders. He wore loose loungewear today. Making him look even smaller. I shifted my gaze. Fan Yuan. Are you busy this afternoon? He asked, while stirring the porridge in the bowl. What's wrong? He bit his lip. Voice very low. I'm alone. So bored at home. Then watch TV. Tired of it. Playing with the phone is boring. I looked at him. He blinked. Expression very innocent. Will you chat with me? About what? Anything is fine. For example, what did you do before? Then quickly added. It's okay if you don't want to say. Nothing I can't say. I patiently told him about my work. He listened very carefully. Chatted for a while. He asked cautiously again. So, do you have a girlfriend? I looked up. He immediately waved his hand. I'm just asking. It's okay if you don't want to. No, never before. Now waiting for a little girl to nod. I looked into her eyes. Said seriously. Her eyes lit up. Cheeks turned red. Lowered head to continue drinking porridge. But the corners of the mouth stayed up. During that meal, she asked many questions. Some I answered. Some I didn't. He wasn't in a hurry. Talking to himself. About things from his childhood. About the flowers he grew. About the relationship with stray cats downstairs. Voice very soft. A bit hypnotic in the quiet room. After eating I cleared. Not the table. He hopped over on one foot to help. Sit down quickly. What if you fall again, Dong Hui? I hurriedly stopped him. I can do it. He picked up a bowl. I snatched it away. Don't cause trouble, he pouted. The teacher sat back on the sofa. After cleaning up I washed my hands and came out. He was holding the remote and flipped through the channels. Stopping on Animal World. In the frame, lions were running on the savannah. He was watching very intently. I walked over. And sat on the other side of the sofa. He shifted a bit toward me. Seeing I didn't move, he shifted again. Shifted a bit, our arms were almost touching. That faint scent from him wafted over again. Fan Yuan, he called me softly. Can you lean a bit closer? He asked. I turned to look at him. His face was a bit red. His eyes were darting away. I'm a bit cold. I took a look. Outside the window, the sun was bright. I didn't expose him. Leaned a bit toward him. He immediately pressed against me. His head rested on my shoulder very lightly. Almost weightless. My body stiffened for a moment. He didn't move, just leaned there. Eyes fixed on the TV. The light from the screen flickered on his face. I could feel his body heat. Passing through the clothes. And his light, shallow breaths. Time seemed to slow down. The lion's hunt was successful. Pinning down an antelope. The narrator's voice was deep and calm. He suddenly spoke. His voice was very soft. Almost inaudible. Fan Yuan, you'll make me misunderstand like this. He looked up at me. Very close. I could see my reflection in his eyes. Misunderstand what? I asked softly. His eyelashes fluttered. Didn't make a sound then. Suddenly leaned in. Quickly kissed me on the cheek. A soft, warm touch that broke instantly. He pulled back, cheeks flushed red. Looking at me with watery eyes, like he'd done something wrong. And waiting for my reaction. My heart felt heavy in my chest. Thumped once. I didn't move, reached out and gently pinched his chin. Leaned down and pressed against his lips. His eyes widened. Made a soft sound. His body went limp. His hands on my chest had no strength. This kiss had the light sweetness of porridge. And the unique, faint scent he had. He was very passive at first. Then gradually began to respond. Tentatively, cautiously. When we pulled apart, his lips were red and swollen. Looking at me with eyes like a fawn. This is what you call a misunderstanding. My voice was a bit hoarse. His face turned even redder. Buried his head in my chest. Hugged me tightly. I held him. Gently patting his back. My heart was full of joy. From then on, He became even clingier, sending messages more frequently. What he ate from morning till night. What he saw. Even if just a bird landed on the windowsill. You'd still take a picture for me. I replied seriously every time. Even if it was just an emoji. Or a so cute. He would be happy for a long time. By the weekend, his foot had healed. He could walk normally. He dragged me to the supermarket. Saying the fridge at home was empty. He was pushing the shopping cart ahead, picking up everything he saw to look. Fang Yuan, let's buy a bag of this new potato chip flavor. Fang Yuan, the yogurt is on sale. Let's take 2 boxes. Fang Yuan, do you think this bowl is cute? Let's buy a pair. He took the bowls with rabbits on them, looking at me expectantly. Don't we have bowls at home? But these have rabbits. He held up the bowls. Rabbit ears facing me. I looked at him. His eyes started to wander. Whispering, just buy a pair. Fine, fine. Whatever you want. Putting the bowls in the cart with a smile. He immediately beamed with joy. Walking to the fresh produce section. He stood in front of the fish tank, watching the fish swimming inside. Fang Yuan, do you know how to cook fish? Let's buy a fish. He turned to look at me. I want to eat the fish you cook. He asked the staff to catch one while the staff was processing it. He hid far away, covering his ears. I stood beside him, watching his cowardly look. Smiling, I said, scared, yet you want to eat it. I'm just not scared. His voice leaped through his fingers. The staff finished processing it, bagged it, and handed it over. I took the heavy bag, still carrying a fishy smell. He pinched his nose, leaned in for a look, and immediately backed away again. Holding the bag, I turned and said, let's go get some scallions and ginger. He followed behind me, muttering softly. It looked quite nice when it was alive. After shopping, we queued to pay. Packed into 2 full large bags. I carried 1 bag in each hand. He followed beside me empty-handed. Wanting to help, let me carry one for you. It's heavy, no need. I've got it. Just follow me obediently. I smiled and sidestepped away. He was, yet still followed me obediently. Leaving the supermarket, the evening breeze felt very comfortable. He walked beside me. His hand quietly reached over, hooking my pinky finger. I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned and held his hand. Fingers interlocking. His hand was very small, soft and a bit cold. I held it tightly to warm it up. He looked up at me. His eyes were bright and full of smiles. Fang Yuan, are we considered to be together like this? I nodded with a smile. Yes, of course. From now on, you are my girlfriend. He laughed even more happily, swinging my hand back and forth, like a little child. Great. Fang Yuan is my boyfriend now. Arriving downstairs at his home, I handed him one of the bags. Take this, hold it gently. He took it with some effort. I took out the key to open the door. He followed me upstairs, panting. Fang Yuan, you're so strong, carrying such heavy things without getting tired. To carry things for my girlfriend, no matter how heavy, I won't get tired. I said with a smile. Then it'll work out with you in the future, so I can help you carry things. He said. We reached the door. He took out the keys to open the door. It went smoothly this time. Opened it on the first try. We carried the things inside, put them on the floor. He slumped on the sofa and let out a long sigh. Exhausted. I sorted the items into categories. Put what should go in the fridge. Put what should go in the cabinet in the cabinet. He watched me busy from the sofa. Suddenly said, Fang Yuan, you're like my husband this way. I stopped for a moment, looked back at him. His face turned red all at once. Grabbed a pillow to cover his face. I was just talking nonsense. I put the last box of milk into the fridge and closed the door. Walked to the side of the sofa. He was still covering his face with a pillow. I pulled the pillow away. His face was all red. Eyes closed. Dared not look at me. Bai Ningbing, I called him. His eyelashes flickered. Slowly opened his eyes. Eyes darting away. I looked at him for several seconds. Then I said, then let's get married. Bai Ningbing was completely stunned. Eyes wide and round. Mouth slightly agape. Looking at me for a long time. Before he found himself. Voice trembling violently. You, what did you say, marriage? I repeated it once. Squatted in front of him. Held his hand. I want to marry you. Want you to be my wife. Want to take care of you for a lifetime. No matter if you're still this confused or still cause trouble. I want to be with you. Will you marry me? He shook his head vigorously. Then quickly nodded. Finally getting all confused. Hands gesturing wildly in the air. No, this is too fast. Are you serious? I've never been more serious. I looked into his eyes. Eyes, I know it might be a bit fast. But my feelings for you are real. I want to be with you for a lifetime. You're so clumsy. Only I can take good care of you. Right? His eyes suddenly turned red. The tip of his nose was also red. But I'm so clumsy. I don't know how to do anything. Always giving you trouble. I just like the chance to have you trouble me. I wiped the tears from the corner of his eye. If you can't learn, it'll teach you. If you cause trouble, it'll bear it for you. Is it because you pity me? He asked softly. No, it's because I love you. I answered very quickly. And very seriously. Bing Bing, I love you. Want to marry you. Want to spend a lifetime with you. He looked at me, tears falling even harder. But nodded with a smile. I do. I'm willing to marry you. Fang Yuan, I do. He lunged forward and hugged my neck, holding very tightly, body slightly, trembling. I do. I was knocked back half a step by him. Patted his back with a smile. Think it through, you can't go back on it later. I've thought it through, you'll never go back on it. He buried his face in the crook of my neck. Voice muffled with crying. You're not allowed to regret it either. No regrets. No regrets for a lifetime. She cried for a while, then suddenly looked up, tears still hanging on her face. But her eyes were amazingly bright. Then when are we going to get the certificate? Tomorrow, I said. Ah, so fast. She was stunned again. Fast. I want to marry you home sooner. Make you my legal wife sooner. I wiped the tears from her face. Bring your ID card. Other things we'll prepare slowly later. She looked at me for a long time. Suddenly smiled. Eyes curved into crescents. Corners of the mouth curled up, revealing a small canine tooth. Okay, she leaned in and gave me a heavy kiss on the lips. Stamped. Fang Yuan, you are mine. There weren't many people at the Civil Affairs Bureau. We took a number and sat on the bench. Bai Ningbing sat up straight, both hands placed on her knees, tightly clutching the bag strap. Today wearing a white shirt dress. Hair obediently draped over her shoulders, looking especially well behaved. It's just that her hands were shaking. I reached out and held her hand. She turned her head to look at me, eyes a bit panicked. Fang Yuan, you're nervous. Don't be nervous, I squeezed her hand, giving her strength. Think about how we can be together forever now. Aren't you happy? She nodded, but still couldn't help saying, it's just my heart is beating so fast. Palms are full of sweat. I turned her hand over. Sure enough, the palm was wet. Took a tissue from my pocket to wipe it for her. It's okay, I'm with you. In here. She looked. I suddenly asked, Fang Yuan, have you really thought it through? In the future, I might still be very clumsy. We'll cause trouble, we'll shut up. I interrupted her and flicked her nose. I like you just like this. No matter what you're like. I like you, chatterbox. She immediately shut her mouth, eyes blinking as she looked at me. Like an obedient little rabbit, our number was called. We got up and walked to the counter. The staff member was a middle-aged auntie. Looked at us, then looked at the documents. Routinely asked if it's voluntary. Voluntary, Bai Ningbing blurted out. Voice especially loud. The auntie smiled, bowed her head to process the paperwork. When taking photos, the photographer told us to get closer and smile. Bai Ningbing leaned tightly against me, body a bit stiff. I reached out and held her. Her shoulder leaned close to her ear. Whispered smile. My bride looks best when she smiles. She turned her face to the camera and gave a big sweet smile. Click, the flash went off, freezing our happiness in time. Soon, 2 red booklets were handed out. The auntie said with a smile, Congratulations, young man, treat the girl well. I will, thank you. I took the red booklets and handed one to Bai Ningbing. She clutched it tightly in her hand, looking at it over and over, eyes sparkling, full of joy. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. The sunlight is a bit dazzling. Bai Ningbing stands on the steps, holding up the red booklet in her hand, looking at Fang Yuan against the sun. We got married just like this. That's right, we're married. I pulled her into my arms, saying with a smile, from now on, you are my legal wife. It'll treat you well for a lifetime. She turned her head to look at me, still a bit in disbelief, then suddenly started laughing. Laughing so hard her shoulders shook, hugging the red booklet tightly to her chest. I've hit the jackpot, picking up such a wonderful husband. I raised an eyebrow. Why do I feel like I'm the one who gained? Picking up such a cute wife, she said confidently. Anyway, I'm the winner. Then she reached out her hand and spread it before me. Hubby, you're mine now. Oh yeah, I put my hand in her palm. She immediately gripped it, interlocking our fingers. Pulled it up, rubbed it against her face, and headed home. My wife, let's go home. Our home. She pulled me down the steps. With light steps. Ponytail swinging as we got home and walked in. Bai Ningbing then placed the 2 red booklets side by side in the most prominent spot on the coffee table. Then stepped back 2 paces and crossed her arms, admiring them with satisfaction. Perfect. I changed my shoes, walked to the sofa and sat down, watching her fuss around. After she finished admiring the marriage certificates, she came running back with a patter, and with a thud, sat down right next to me, pressing close. Marriage is sickeningly sweet. Hubby wifey. I responded with a smile, pulling her into my arms. We are now a legal couple. Right? That's right, a legal couple. Her eyes darted around. She leaned in, her breath puffing against my ear. Warmly, shouldn't a legal couple fulfill their obligations? I turned my head to look at her. Her face was a bit flushed, but her gaze didn't shy away, looking straight at me as her hand quietly crept up my shoulder. To exercise my legal rights as a wife. What rights? I teased her on purpose. She licked her lips. Her voice dropped even lower. Her breath brushed past my ear to eat you. Using your rights. After saying that, she couldn't keep a straight face, burying her face in my chest. I gave a low chuckle, holding her a bit tighter. She let out a soft cry, her hands pressing against my chest. Bai Ningbing, I called her, and she looked up, looking at me with watery eyes. Silly, aren't you tired of pretending for so long? Her body visibly stiffened. Her gaze began to wander. I wasn't pretending. Not pretending, I lifted a lock of her hair with my finger. Said with a smile, who intentionally dropped the keys down the drain. Who asks me every day how to connect to the Wi-Fi? And who sprained her ankle? And called me immediately? She pursed her lips and stayed silent. I pinched her waist. She shrank back from the tickle, muttering softly. Wasn't that because I wanted you to come over more often? Knowing you are so good to me, I just got more and more into the act. Stupid, I commented with a smile. I'm not stupid. He looked up indignantly. If I didn't pretend, would you have taken the bait so quickly? It's not certain who took whose bait. I lowered my head to get close to him, my nose rubbing against his. Bing bing, the marriage certificate is already collected. You can't run away. He looked at my face so close to him. His gaze was a bit dazed. I can't run away. He admitted defeat very quickly. But the next second, he leaned in again confidently and kissed my chin. But you can't run away either. Fang Yuan, you are my husband now. Her eyes were sparkling, full of pride, and a little bit of slyness. Like a little fox who finally stole something delicious. I looked at him for a long time, then lowered my head to kiss him. He let out a hum. His arms hooked around my neck. When we separated, we were both panting heavily. She leaned in my arms and whispered, "Hubby, I'm hungry." After she said it, she laughed first. That kind of hungry, really hungry. I didn't eat enough because I woke up too early. I laughed too, ruffling her hair. "What do you want to eat? Hubby will cook for you. I like everything you make," he said quickly. Then his face quickly turned red, burrowing his head into my arms. "I want to eat the food you cook." I picked her up and walked to the kitchen. He, clinging to my neck, exclaiming, "What are you doing? Aren't you hungry?" "Teaching you how to cook." I looked down at him. Said with a smile, "Starting from today, you have to learn to do housework. If you can't learn." He widened his eyes. "What if I can't learn? Are you going to bully your newlywed wife?" "If you can't learn, I'll cook for you for the rest of my life." I put her down with a smile, opened the refrigerator, took out eggs and tomatoes and stuffed them into his hands. "Wash the vegetables and beat the eggs, my dear wife." He looked at the things in his hands and then looked again, pouted and muttered softly, overbearing, then obediently walked to the sink and started washing the tomatoes. Sunlight shone in through the kitchen window, falling on him. Warmly, she was washing very seriously. Her profile was soft, with a smile on her lips that she hadn't even noticed. I leaned against the counter and watched him. Somewhere in my heart was filled to the brim. Warmly. He finished washing the tomatoes, turned to look at me, holding up the bright red fruit, like showing off. "Hubby, it's washed." I walked over, embraced him from behind, held his hand that was holding the tomato. His body leaned into my arms. "Step 1, I whispered against his ear. "Teaching you how to cut vegetables." His ears slowly turned red, but a happy smile appeared on his lips. "The whole story is finished."